Hey everyone, I'm Selena Hill, and this is the new norm on Black Enterprise. Today, I have the privilege to speak with Emmy award winning comedian and actor J.B. Smoove, who is a star on Curb Your Enthusiasm and The Real Husbands of Hollywood. He is also the narrator of a new podcast on Audible called Funny My Way, which is a docu-series that chronicles the lives of 6 legendary Black comics. Thank you so much, JB, for being here with us today.
Oh yeah, this is so great. Yeah, it's good times for comedy. It's a good time for comedy. I love it.
Oh, yeah. It is. We need all the comedy we can get at this point in life with the pandemic,
Yeah,
monkeypox, war. We need folks like you.
yeah, we got a lot going on. We got a lot going on, and it's some amazing
We
tours going
do.
on right now. All my buddies are doing their thing right now on the road. Chris Rock, Chappelle, Kevin, everybody's doing their thing right now, and it's such a great time for comedy. And all my guys are out there right now on the road. Sid and everybody, everybody's on the road, and I'm loving that people are coming out again and they get a chance to hear great comedy. Yeah.
Did you have a chance to see Kevin Hart's show with Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock?
I missed the Chappelle one. I was in New York during there when they were in New York. I missed the Madison Square Garden one, and I went to the Barclays Center one, and I caught Chris and Kevin. It was absolutely phenomenal. So many cool folks came out to support, and that's what it is. It was all these amazing comedians backstage, and we all hung out after the show, and it was just really, really, it's one of those things where it's almost like what's going on with this amazing podcast, Funny My Way. We get a chance to conquer and like influence our era that we live in. These amazing comedians on this podcast, Funny My Way, they did that. They created a path for us. They paved the way for us to be able to do what we do now because they have their story. And right now, new stories are being written about these legendary comedians that I'm growing up with as my friends. So we are growing up in the same era. We get a chance to see the same amazing things, the same crazy things, the same things that comedians are able um, to write funny material to take the sting off of the straight brunt of the
Right.
real news. You know what I mean? And you need the comedian. Every era needed a comedian. All these comedians on in this podcast, the eras are spread out, and they all had their time. Although at some
Right.
period of time, they were all around at the same time. Maybe not doing exactly what they were doing at their peak
Yes.
of their career, but they all knew of each other. They all knew of each
Right.
other.
And
This,
And
yeah,
before,
yeah,
right, and we definitely going to jump into Funny My Way. I've
yeah,
been listening. I love it, but it's so funny how you compared
yeah,
those legendary comedians to the legends that we see now. Your counterparts, your compadres, your friends
yeah,
who are touring. You've done your tour as well. And when we speak about legacy, right,
yeah.
and sort of like solidifying, and you talk about your friend Chris Rock. How do you think? Him particularly, how does his legacy play out now post Oscars? Like, did that change sort of like his trajectory or his legacy a little bit?
No, it doesn't change anything. It really solidifies and allows you to understand that the comedian, you know, in this PC world we live in right now, it's almost like some things have to be put out there. Some people got to be the first to do something, and some people got to be the last to do something. You know what I mean? He might be the last one to react the way he reacted. You know what I'm saying? There is a climate that is building of people not caring about people as much anymore. We don't know what society is going to throw at us next. Like you mentioned earlier, we got all these things going on. We got monkeypox and pandemics and all this stuff going on in the world. political outbursts and racial injustice. We got so many things going on that there's so much for us to do. It's almost his reaction could have clouded the purpose of the comedian. His reaction could have, his different reaction could have clouded the landscape a little bit. You know what I mean? I think there's a way of having class to what you do, respect for what you do.
Right.
Because
is that how you would have reacted?
How you react?
How would you have reacted?
I don't know. I don't know how I would have reacted, but I have to respect that we plant seeds unknowingly. Sometimes we plant seeds. You know, I think what happens is it changes the dynamic of it. One goes from being an assault, and if you react, it goes to being a fight. Two different things. Two different things. Seen two different ways. Fight at the Oscars. Oh my God, it's a fight. You know? It's different than, oh man, what just happened? Different. And that's why, you know, I think it's important to document the stories. These stories, you need to understand them. See what happens here with the younger comedians. Some of the young comedians, they don't ever recognize some of these names. They may have heard of them, but they haven't really submerged themselves in the history of what these guys.
And you're talking about the comedians on Funny My Way, right?
Exactly. These guys had to go through a lot, and believe me, they had moments, big moments where, you know, it was it was a fork in the road, and sometimes that was a fork in the road on that stage. That was a fork in the road. It's like, do I go this way or do I go that way? You know, it could go in that, and that changes. It changes how comedy is seen. You know,
how does it change the way comedy is seen?
It's not a battle. It's not a battle circle with a lion versus a warrior. It's not. That's not what comedy is. Comedy is being able to take what's going on in the world, reprocess it, and someone's going to give it to you in a manageable way where you can laugh and be relatable and say, "Oh, I can see it his way. I like his take on it." You know. Uh-oh.
And reflect. So, you know, that being said, just to jump more into Funny My Way, again, it is on Audible original. It really pays homage to 6 iconic Black comedians who broke barriers in the entertainment industry. So we're talking Dick Gregory, Red Fox, Moms Mabley, Flip Wilson, Rudy Ray Moore, and Paul Mooney. What did you learn about these comedians and the evolution of comedy while you were recording this podcast?
Here's what, and I say this. There's a difference between listening to something and saying something. So for me, it was, anyone who's a comedy fan can listen to this podcast, listen to it, right? But being in that studio, recording this, you know, and I'm speaking it out loud into speaking it in my cadence, in my excitement for it, in my interest, you know, is different than just listening to it. It's a big difference between, because I was able to absorb it more. You know, it was times when I was recording, I got the chills because I got what the struggle was. You gotta realize these 6 comedians, these guys, somewhere in the military, some were working as dishwashers, some were, you know, parents, some were the first. Paul Mooney wrote for Richard Pryor. You know, Dick Gregory became he was a comedian. This guy became an amazing in the civil rights movement. You know, and Flip Wilson, groundbreaking comedian and variety show. You know, Dick Gregory, Um, you're talking about going on white shows like the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and being able to perform on these shows, but also being able to be one of the first, no, the first to sit down and talk to Johnny Carson. Comedians were allowed to go on the show, but a lot of times they weren't allowed to sit down and talk. That means, so you only want to hear my jokes. You don't want to know who I am, who I really am, and that's groundbreaking stuff. And to be able to still be funny and find a way through the civil rights movement and all the things that they went through, and still found a way to be uniquely identifiable, funny, authentic in what they do for their brand of humor, and they all had success without downplaying, without criticizing each other.
Right. And I love that aspect of it. It is
yeah,
right. Yes.
all had
And what I
success.
love about the podcast is that you do such a great job of telling their backstory. Even if you aren't familiar with these names, you are
Yeah,
literally just drawn into their stories, into their struggles. We have comics
yeah,
who are, trying to break barriers, or did break barriers in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. And when you talk
yeah,
about Paul Mooney, his life, and just
yeah,
how unapologetic he was when it came to white supremacy. You talk about how white folks would leave. They would walk out during his routine.
yeah.
I have to ask you, was Paul Mooney ahead of his time?
I think every last person on this list were unknowingly ahead of their time, because you're performing for the moment that you live in. That what you say is going to make those people in your timeline happy, make them think, motivate them to do their dreams. You're doing so many things that you don't even realize you're doing. And these guys planted so many amazing seeds. But see, without them, I'm not sure we would be doing the comedy that we do in the context we're doing it now. Someone had to be groundbreaking and outspoken in order for you to be groundbreaking and outspoken in this period of time. So, in other words,
Oh yeah.
it would have been harder to be these guys without these guys. You know what I mean?
They laid the
Yeah,
foundation. They paved the way for Dave Chappelle, for JB Smoove, for Kevin
yes.
Hart. How has comedy evolved since these legends were in their prime?
I think comedy has evolved because the world moves a lot faster. The PC stuff that pops up, that's a hard turn also. But I say this: we in this period of time we got to be careful because, like I said, the comedians who are around right now are the pace cars for the rest of their careers and the careers of the young comics that come behind them. Meaning, whatever we lay down right now, like how they laid it out, whatever we lay down now, you're going to have to times that by 10 because it has to evolve. Either it has to evolve someplace, and it's going to be. What you don't want is comedy to become this underground thing, because only certain people can listen to it without judgment. Only certain people can listen to it without being offended, and you don't want that to be what comedy can be. You know what I mean? Comedy is creative, it's poetry, it's all these things. And we have to understand that comedy is basically, when you see a comedian, he's giving you either different styles. There's physical styles, there's political styles, there's all these styles of comedy. Some people go on stage and talk about their family, their mom, their dad, their upbringing, and they have you
Right.
laughing your butt off because it's relatable. But you have comedians who can take the real news and just give you the same thing you just watched on TV on the
Right.
news, but at
But
the
in a
same time,
different format.
at the same time, people can be
Right.
offended. You tell them
And
exactly
speaking
what the news guy just said.
And that's
You
what
know
and
what I'm
that's
saying?
what I wanted to ask you, JB, because how has cancel culture affected comedy? To your point, you can't, things you can't really get away with saying a lot more because
Yeah,
of Twitter, because of social media. And
yeah,
even after the Will Smith slap, there were calls to cancel stand-up comedians. I heard folks saying, cancel all comedy, TikTok is funnier anyway.
Uh, I will definitely disagree with that. You know, I will definitely disagree with that because again, everything is birthed from the world of stand up. Stand up birthed everything. Videos on TV, TikTok, Instagram videos, funny videos, comedy, stand up comedy, and comedy has birthed all that. And like I said, without stand up comedian, without stand up comedians and where it originated from, without all that, there is no what we have now in this form. In this form, it's easy to, but you gotta realize this. They also, you can get your account blocked and suspended. So I don't want them to think that somehow they're safe. You can go too far with TikToks. You can go too far with Instagram Reels. You can go too far with anything, and someone's going to be offended. So they're not excluded from being canceled or or put on punishment. Social media punishment. So I say this: there's the real news, and then there's the comedian's take on the news. So we are the next wave, the next level of the news. We are telling you the news, but we're taking the sting off the news, And without our version of it, you're just going to have a straight, the weight of the world put on you every night when you watch the news before you go to bed, or you can hear a comedian's take on it. Some people don't like watching the news at all anymore because there's so much going on that you almost need someone to make light of it. I think the comedian does that. But also people on TikTok and Instagram, they do the same thing. But in this time period we live in cancel culture, I think that you have to have someone's take on the world. You have to have it
Right.
because otherwise we become stark. We become one dimensional,
Yeah,
and
you definitely
yeah,
right.
you can't have a world without laughter and fun,
Without
and
comedy,
but you got to be able to go.
no,
Yeah, but you can't go to a show, watch a show, but be offended by the show that you know what you're going to see already.
well, I
And,
mean,
and, and
and that speaks to and JB, that speaks to the current zeitgeist, right? I think especially younger generations who will call out each and every person for being
yeah,
offensive, as they should. But
yeah,
sometimes I do think they toe the line. Like I love Black Twitter, but sometimes I'm like, all right, now we're reaching. Like
yeah,
some folks, I
yeah,
don't make excuses. Some folks live in bubbles and they just ignorant, and some folks really don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Some folks are intentional,
yeah.
but I think that we just calling out everyone.
Yeah,
With the evolution of
yeah, yeah. There's a, how they say, there's a etiquette. There is an etiquette to everything. Everything has an etiquette. You know, if you're at a show and someone says one thing, most comedians, they spread it out. Everybody's going to get it. Those type of comedians, they
right,
spread it out. Everybody gonna leave here with a nickname. I don't give. Everybody gonna have.
yep,
We all in the same room. We're just making light of human nature. We're making light of humanity. Making light of what this is. And if you don't make light of it, you will become a victim of it. You become so one sided in your thought that nothing will be funny anymore, and nothing will be acceptable anymore, and you are literally going to be left with one option: the real news and survival, and not being able to break that up with some type of context another voice to listen to, something
I,
relatable.
I
Yeah,
agree to that. And I do think, I was at Caroline's last week, and one of the
yeah,
comedians, he made jokes about how the art of comedy is dying. I thought he was my favorite comedian of the night. He was hilarious, but he was just like, I don't know why I'm here. I can't believe I committed my life to a dying art form. And he just kept going on and on. And I really started to think about that. And I'm so happy to have an opportunity to ask, a superstar comedian like yourself, is
yeah.
the art form of stand up dying?
It's not dying, but we definitely have to. Uh, see? It's weird. It's two races going on. There's a race for, like you said, cancel culture. There's a race to be funny and relatable, and also there's a race to shut people up, to be thin-skinned and not and make everything about yourself. So there's two races going on at the same time, and they keep pulling ahead of each other. They keep pulling ahead of each other, and it's just a race down the same road. We have the same interest. That is making people comfortable, making people have fun, and making people live a life that's fulfilled. We're both in the same business, but you can't you can't they both can't coexist at the same time because one is never going to pull ahead of the other for a long period of time. We as comedians sometimes, well, there is a term of going too far with stuff, but you got to be into that. You can read a book that goes too far. You can watch a movie that goes too far. You can watch a TV show that goes too far. It's going to come. What you don't want to happen is you don't want, because, man, there's stuff that comedians say on stage that an actor can do and win an Oscar for.
Right.
Right? So we got to be careful how we move because what's next? Actors can't be actors. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it can do that
It's art, and it's always up to interpretation. And you don't want
yeah,
to limit artists'
yeah,
their creativity.
you don't
I
want a
got
mob
you. I got you.
mentality. You don't want a mob mentality in art because what happens is you become the mob takes over, and next thing you know, what you do is not an art anymore. What you do is not funny anymore, and the mob takes over. So you gotta. And here's another thing I always say: we got to be careful how far we go with being thin-skinned or being PC. I'm not saying every comedian is correct, but if it's spread around evenly and everybody's having a good time, you got to be careful because what happens is this. Here's what you got to ask yourself: what happens if you go to a comedy show? Let's just say you went to a comedy show, right? And the guy on stage is saying some risque stuff. It's a comedy special taping. Because you know what tapings do? They show people on stage, show the comedian, and they also show the audience laughing. What happens if someone says some off-color joke in a comedy show that everyone comes to see? They love this comedian, full house, and all of a sudden the camera hits you, and you laughing, you having a ball, you laugh with this one joke, right? And your boss is watching the special, and your boss is offended, and your boss says, "Wait a minute, why is she laughing at that joke?" I'm gonna talk to him when she gets to work tomorrow about what she just laughed at. You thought that was funny? You know what I mean? So we gotta be careful how far we
Right.
go.
But we have to,
In
and
this
that's an
social media
excellent
world,
point and example, because we have to
everybody,
be
yeah,
careful about
everybody has it.
policing different art forms,
Yeah,
especially when it comes to comedy, because it can leak
yeah.
over into other things. It's a form of
Your personal
expression.
life.
I do think certain things are definitely off the table at all times, but other things, comedians have a poetic license to talk about
Yeah,
things that we couldn't say if we were on the street. Before we let you go, JB, we
yeah.
have literally 2 more
You gotta
minutes.
be careful.
I have to ask you about Curb Your Enthusiasm, season 12. We thought it was ending at season 11. What can we expect from season 12?
Woo! You know what? I don't know what Larry has up his sleeve, but I will say that I went to Larry's birthday party. He had a birthday party at his house. And my first time at Larry's house too. And I had to confront Larry about that. I said, Larry, why, I've known you all these years. Why is this the first time I've been in your house, man? Do you think I'm really Leon? Like I'm gonna come to your house and I'm gonna stay in your house and not leave? He started cracking up. But Larry does this with me. What he always does with me is he'll say, uh, he'll just say, "You ready to come back? You ready to come back?" I said, "Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready." He said, I got some pretty good stuff for you this season. And that's all he'll give me. That's all he gives me. Because I think he likes me. He doesn't. I don't like to know everything because I like to have. This is only in certain forms of acting, like because Curb is improvised. The show is improv, and so I like to get my motivation from getting to set and having him, throw the scenario at me. So, like, I will read the outline, but I don't know what my dialogue's going to be because the outline is just basically what the outline of the show is, and there is no dialogue written on anything for us. So, what you hear is what you see and hear in the moment on set. So, for me,
Wow.
if he tells me I got some pretty good stuff for you this season, I know. And he laughs. I said, "Okay, let's do this, baby." I'm ready. I'm all ready to go. So I remember we took off 5 years. He took off, and we came back our first season back. And I remember our first scene together. That when we came back, he was like, and I forgot what it was, man, what scene it was, but man, it was so goddamn funny. And he was like, "Oh my God!" He said, "You've been going 5 years, and you still came back with the heat." But I think it is a great show to be a part of, and um, Larry just he's a genius, but at the same time
Yes.
for certain people, and that's why I talk about styles, man, and how you have
Right.
to be
Everyone has a different style.
you have that
and,
thing.
and, and his
You
style, and not just JB, if I can, because that
yeah,
improv, the chemistry, that just speaks to the beauty and the brilliance of Curb. Why it's been around
mm,
for 12 seasons, and we can't get enough. Unfortunately, we do
yeah.
have to let you go, but let folks know how they can listen to Funny My Way. It is historic. It is about Black iconic comedians, the ones you don't hear about, not the Bill Cosbys, not the Martin Lawrences, but like they're really digging deep into the pioneers of
Yeah.
comedy and Black comedy. How can folks listen?
Oh, they should definitely listen to the podcast. The podcast is absolutely amazing, man. Definitely check it out. I am the narrator on this, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. Please do not miss your chance to understand what comedy is, understand what, not just comedy, not just on stage, but what life is about. Life and what these amazing comedians, what they all dedicate their life to. They all had families. They all had friends. They all had managers. They all had opportunities, love, lost. They all heard the word no. They all, everything you could think of as far as what people go through in their lives, they had to go through it. And that's their personal. They got their personal, they got their career. And hearing this in this form is definitely um, uh, groundbreaking. It's definitely um, um, knowledge that you should have as a comedy fan. And please, please, please understand, the area you're living in right now, these amazing comedians are also going to be spoken about in the same context I'm speaking about these legends here in the future. So get out, see comedy, understand comedy, read about these guys, understand their lives and the walls they're breaking down, and definitely check it out. It's gonna be awesome.
Definitely. Check it out. Funny My Way, narrated by JB Smoove on Audible Original. Thank you so much for your time today and for just keeping us laughing.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hey, it's what it is. It's what it is. I'm telling you, it's what it is. You know, and hopefully, any young comic out there, any person who's not doing comedy, anyone who's in the arts who has a dream and what they want to do in life. Hopefully, this interview, this podcast, and all the things that we talk about, and understand the context of what comedians are. We love to make you laugh. We want to make you happy. So don't take the things that we do as hateful. Take it as another version of the news and the world and
I
love and
love
life.
it. Thank Yes, yes. Perfect way to end. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much. Thanks for the love and the love also. It keeps me going.